Mundo
Everyday Life
is brought to you by
Star Times.
You're still watching Morning at NTV, and today we are discussing a question: old age pension. Joining me today is Dr. Stephen Kidd, who is a social protection specialist. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And Mr. Simon Omoding, I beg your pardon, who is a communications manager for the Expanding Social Protection Program from the Ministry of Gender. Welcome to Morning at NTV.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now, this old age pension, the way we know it here, it's a form of, I guess, social protection that we have. And give us a background to this expanding social protection program here in Uganda.
Okay. Yeah. In 2010, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development prepared a proposal on social protection for the country. And this proposal was submitted to Cabinet. And Cabinet did approve this proposal to pilot a program called Expanding Social Protection Program. Now, this program had two objectives. One was to develop a social protection policy for Uganda. The second objective was to pilot old persons' pensions, what we call the Senior Citizens Grant. So this pilot has been implemented over the last 5 years here in Uganda.
And it has been very successful.
It's been very, very successful.
Okay.
And this is what Dr. Stephen Kidd will talk about.
Okay. So you were part of the design of this program. How did you design it?
Yeah, I led the design team. We had a team of international and national consultants that came in. We were funded by DFID and Irish Aid to work with the Ministry of Gender in undertaking the design. And the design, we went out to a range of communities across the country. We did consultations within them to see how, the best type of program that we would be able to put in place. For them, we had a lot of discussions with ministries and others in Kampala to come together with a proposal. And the proposal was initially to pilot two types of cash transfer. One was for the poor, vulnerable families. Another one was the Senior Citizens Grant, and to test which one would be most successful over the next 5 years.
Okay, so give us an example. How would this work?
In terms of the program?
In terms of the pilot, you identified
it has actually worked, if I may. It has actually worked. In the last 5 years, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development implemented the Senior Citizens Grant in 15 districts as a pilot. During this time, the program has been giving grants of 25,000 shillings per month to older persons who are 65 years and above. But in the case of Karamoja, we lowered that to 60. So, although this money has been paid, bi-monthly, we, put 2 months together and pay 50,000 at a go. But every beneficiary is entitled to 25,000 shillings every month. And we have been able to reach over 120,000 older persons in those 15 districts. And because of the success that we registered, again, in August last year, the government announced a rollout of the Senior Citizens Grant, meaning beyond the 15 districts, government now wants to go to another 40 districts over the next 5 years.
Okay, but my question on how it has worked is, so people just go and register with their district authorities, and I assume bring proof that they're 65 and above. How does it work?
In the past, the program identified and registered these people. What we used at that time was identification documents, whether it's a graduation tax ticket, whether it's a birth certificate, whether it's a baptism ticket, something that certifies someone's birth, because this is an older person's grant. And for our case, the cutoff age is 65 years or 60 in the case of Karamoja. So the criteria for selection was really the age. So all we needed to do was to certify the age. So once someone certified that they were 65 years, then they were enrolled on the program. And so for the last 5 years, we have actually been paying using MTN mobile money. So once someone was registered and enrolled, they got a card, which you didn't need to have a phone, but just a card. And it's on that card that MTN mobile money was sent, and so they were able to withdraw that money from their card. But going forward, we have just signed a contract with Postbank, so it means that Postbank will be the new payment service provider.
Okay. Dr. Stephen Kidd, I'm sure you've had and possibly been to see these areas to see success. How have you been able to measure this particular success in the pilot?
Yeah, I mean, there was actually an evaluation funded by DFID to look at this in a more rigorous and systematic manner. The evaluation did what we'd say is a quantitative analysis, sort of just looked at the numbers about how people were improving, but also qualitative analysis, talking to people in much more depth and how their lives had changed. And that evaluation has shown very dramatic improvements, not just in the lives of older people themselves. They eat better, they dress better, they have better houses, they've invested in their farms, they've invested in animals and small businesses, but amongst their broader households and their broader families, their grandchildren. So a lot of what the older people have been doing with this money, which, while they've been getting 25,000, they've invested it and multiplied it, so they've been getting actually more money, using this to invest and get more. They've been giving it to their grandchildren as well, which is helping grandchildren get to school, they're eating better, there's more meals for children in these communities. So there's been a surprisingly dramatic impact. And the more in-depth sort of qualitative things about how people feel and how their lives has changed, the older people now feel got much more dignity, they feel much more integrated within the community, they feel much more respected within the community, and it's made a dramatic change. I think one important fact we've got to remember, this is a program mainly for women, because most older people in Uganda are female. So, this is a program that has a strong gender element, and that is really helping older women in their last years to have a dignified life, as well as the men. But there are, in reality, a lot less men than there are women.
Yeah, it's interesting because many women, especially, find that older women, the grandmothers, are looking after grandchildren because either their kids have passed away or their children are in urban areas working. And that brings me to another question. The pilot that took place in 15 districts, how did you choose those 15 districts?
Well, I can answer that because I was the one who was involved in deciding the criteria. I mean, it was difficult, I mean, everybody was wanting to say, let's go to the poorest districts in Uganda, which is actually questionable why you should do that, because actually they're the most difficult ones in which to implement the program. If we'd gone into some better off districts, it would have been a lot easier to do. But we also had to do it in a representative manner across Uganda, so it wasn't just all focused on the north, which is, if we'd gone for the poorest districts, that's probably what we would have chosen, and so there would have been a geographical bias. So we did a sort of geographical distribution across the country, and then tried to get to some of what were defined as perhaps the poorest districts in that, although it was, again, difficult to really select which district is poorer than others. So in the end, we made a decision, whether it was right or wrong in the end. That's the decision that was made. Those 15 districts were lucky to be chosen because it has made a big difference in those districts.
So those 15 districts, each person in that district above 65, and 60 in the case of the Karamoja region, got 25,000 shillings per month or 50,000 shillings. You can verify that?
Yes. They've been getting that. We have good systems in place to ensure that the programs roll out, to ensure that everybody's getting that money. So we're confident that 100% of the people have been receiving that cash. Of course, we've got all the records for that. So they've been receiving it. Occasionally, because of the challenges, there's been delays in getting people the cash. But if there's a delay, then they're always paid the money that they're owed from that delay. So everybody's been getting that. Everybody over 65, and the way that it's been designed is that this should be seen as an entitlement, a right for every person, every citizen of Uganda should have the right to receive an old age pension when they reach the age of 65. That's the basic idea behind the program. It's a basic entitlement for every citizen. So you should be able to get it as well when you return 65, whether you need the 25,000. Hopefully it'll be a lot more than 25,000 by the time you reach 65.
Why I'm asking if you're sure is because Simon here would definitely know. In Uganda we have so many ghosts. We have ghost teachers, we have ghost pupils, we have had ghost pensioners before, and some people may be watching and they're very skeptical, saying, are you sure that the money was actually going to the right hands?
Yeah, the advantage of a very simple design like this, everybody over 65, is that it's much easier to know whether people are getting it. One, everybody in the districts over 65, they know they should get the pension. So they don't get the money, they can make a complaint, right? If you were to do a program that's sort of targeted to the poor, well, nobody knows who's the poor, and nobody knows, and it's much easier to have corruption within those kind of programs, because people themselves don't know whether they should receive it, whether they shouldn't receive it. But everybody over 65, they themselves know. So if they don't get it, they can complain, right? They can complain to the local authorities if they don't get it. So we have this very effective, in a sense, citizens monitoring of people who know exactly what they need to get. There are, of course, in any of these programs, challenges that there may be people who die, and we've got to ensure that when they die that they're taken off the list. So we have to put in place systems to ensure that happens. There's obviously teething programs. It's a very challenging environment in which to do this program, but it's very, very successful. And there have been some cases of mistakes and errors, very, very small, but we looked and compared to my own country, the United Kingdom, in terms of the errors that they make in the delivery of their similar programs, and the errors on this program are much smaller than actually what the government is able to achieve in the United Kingdom amongst its own citizens. So we're very, very pleased with the success of that, and the systems have been working very well, and local government has put a lot of effort into helping this get delivered.
You designed it in such a way that people get the money through the mobile phone?
That was part of a tender process. Okay, so we did the design, and we did the design to ensure that, and the design said people should be receiving this money every 2 months. Then we put out a tender to banks and mobile phone companies to see which one could put themselves the best design to make certain that people got that program. So the first tender was won by MTN, and now the second tender, which just went out a few months ago, has been won by Postbank. So they'll now take that over. So they're responsible for that part of the design, actually how people physically get the cash on time. What we're responsible for is giving them the cash at the right time to ensure that they deliver it to the people. So the money is
given to MTN?
Yes.
People, the pensioners, do not necessarily have to have an MTN phone, do they?
No, they don't need to have a phone. What we did was we provided them with a card, which is a SIM card, but the size of an ATM card. So they went with that card to a pay point where there was a machine which they could insert, and then from that they could tell what credit they had on the card, and then they decide how much they want to withdraw out of it. But of course, like Dr. Kidd is saying, this is a solution. This is a payment solution. So 5 years ago, that was the best solution we had at the time in terms of delivering this money to the beneficiaries. Now, 5 years down the road, we re-advertised, and Postbank has come on, has brought on the table a new solution. So they are going to pay using their new solution, which we hope will be better, more reliable, and more feasible than the previous.
They actually get the 50,000. There are no deductions, because here in Uganda there are all sorts of deductions, bank charges.
The transaction costs are paid by the program, so the beneficiaries actually get 50,000.
Okay. Now this program has been quite successful here. What does this mean for the rest of Africa?
Well, the rest of Africa, I mean, this program is the type of program that we find in Southern Africa. We find similar entitlement programs for older people in South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Lesotho, and Swaziland. But beyond that, further north, there's been no program that's ever been designed like this that is a basic citizens' entitlement for everybody. So what it means is that we can show that this is successful here, then other countries in the region will be able to see the success. One of the big things is the fact that the government has bought into it, the popularity in Parliament, the popularity amongst ministers, the popularity amongst others, because they can see, if you want to be a popular politician, giving something to the people is going to help you, and giving a citizen, in the time that everybody who's a citizen is going to help you as a politician. Now, let's not think this is a bad thing. This is what politicians do all around the world, right? In our own country, you build good programs for the people that benefit everybody, and then you should get the rewards for putting in place great programs. So this is, we can see from this that, a government that implements this, if it was scaled up even quicker than it's planned to be scaled up, this will have, benefits for the existing government in the future. But it's successful. It's easy to deliver. So other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, if we can show the rest of the continent that a country in Uganda with all the challenges, and we should not underestimate how difficult it is to implement this program in many of the parts of Uganda, particularly in Karamoja. If it can be done here, it can be done anywhere. And these programs, when people say we can't afford it, actually you can. This is very simple because the benefits as well to the economy are very, very significant. Lots of people spending lots of money is going to help everybody. It's going to help entrepreneurs. It's going to help everybody else because they'll be able to sell their goods because there's a lot more cash in the economy, and that will help drive the economy as well. And this is one of the successes in developed countries. Developed countries spend on average 14% of GDP on these type of programs, which helps drive their economy. A lot of spending comes out of that, and that generates economic growth. This, we're hardly spending anything at the moment. We scale this up, and to do this nationally would only cost around 0.3% of GDP in Uganda. It's a marginal cost that the government could do. The benefits in communities to everybody, because of the additional amount of cash that's injected in that, makes a massive difference, not just the lives of older people, but to everybody and to the economic growth of the country. So we want to get this message out that, it's great the government's committed, but an even faster scale-up would be even better, and it would be better for the economy, and for everybody if we manage to do this.
I mean, what you're saying sounds really great, and I'm tempted to ask, where is Uganda getting this money? You're saying, other African countries can look at us and say, well, if it's happening in Uganda, it can happen. But in my mind, I'm struggling to imagine Uganda actually has this money that they can pay out.
Yeah, we did calculations to show that, with the actual increase in taxation over the next few years, because as the economy grows, the tax increases irrespective of whether you're more successful in getting tax to get more people in. The tax grows. Now this program, the expansion, can be funded just from natural growth in tax. A very small proportion of it will fund the growth of this program, and it's still for the next 5 years going to be substantially supported by DFID and Irish Aid. So it's still in the 15 districts. They're still keeping that up, and that will gradually phase out. But you could do it. But we've seen work elsewhere in other countries. We've done simulation studies that if you inject this, we did a study in Vietnam, for example, where we said if you spent 1% of GDP, we could show this would generate 2% of growth in GDP by spending 1% of GDP just from the increased spending that people are doing. So it will generate its own money if the government is confident enough to send this out. And, it is a marginal cost.
How much?
Well, I'd say around to put it at national scale, is about 0.3% of GDPs. But don't ask me at this point how many billions of shillings that's going to be. But 0.3% of GDP would make it pretty much the cheapest universal pension in the world.
What about, maybe Simon can answer this, how many do you estimate, how many Ugandans are above 65, and as you're rolling out to the 40 other districts, about how many do you think you'll be, do you have those figures?
So far we have about 120,000, just over 120,000 that are on the program. Okay. But going forward, in the rollout, because of the budget issues again, what is going to happen is that we are going to target first 100 oldest people in every sub-county.
So you start counting from 80,
from 70, above, yes, coming down.
And then the 65-year-olds are the last on the list.
To keep the principle that it's a universal program, but the aim would be to then gradually go down to everybody over 65, and that's just because of the limited funds so far. But the existing counties will continue at over 65 or over 60. I mean, the total numbers of older people, I don't have the number, but it's in its millions.
Yes, I think the latest census shows that there are about 4 million older persons in Uganda.
4 million?
Yeah.
And you're talking about 0.3% of GDP.
It sounds great, really. It's just that with our Ugandan our politics, everyone is crying no money, no money, no money. But you mentioned DFID and Irish Aid as being partners.
Yeah, and DFID and Irish Aid are partners. They're committed to doing this for at least another five years. The thing that people have got to understand, this is just not about giving money to old people and that's all, and there's nothing happens with it. This is very much part of an economic growth strategy. You know, one, just the levels of investment that the older people have in themselves, in their own activities, that's actually generating more growth even in the household. It's improving the prospects of children significantly in Uganda. They're going to be the future workforce. So that's important to invest in. All these children being taken care of by the older people, but also their other grandchildren that they're helping. That's helping them get to school, get a better education, better nutrition, so they'll be a better workforce down the line. That's going to help the economy down the line. But also just the spending that you can generate, spending that helps everybody. No economy can function without spending. And what the secret that many other countries have learned is we have to give this economic stimulus, cash, to people to spend, and that will help the economy grow. It creates much more demand, and everybody benefits from it. In the global recession, that's what Obama did in the United States. In the recession, he just invested in giving cash to people through public works programs, through their food stamp programs, and that helped overcome it. In Australia, in the global recession, they sent out a check of $2,000 to every household, just asking them to spend the money just to get the economy back on track. Thailand made its old age pension universal during the global recession, really just to get money to spend to help the economy get back on track. Uganda, it'll also benefit by investing this money, getting a much more dynamic economy, but by people spending in all these communities will also help the economy.
Okay, so giving cash definitely is better than giving the chicken and cows and piglets and goats, because we have had some programs before, not exactly for the older persons, but we have had some programs where women especially are given a calf or a piglet or...
Yeah, but it's about giving people choice.
Choice.
Right? You give them the cash, they can spend it as they best decide at the time. What we're seeing is a lot of people, a lot of women are spending this money on animals, on their farms, on setting up other small businesses, which is great, but others are spending it on their grandchildren, others are spending it on the on their health needs, etc. So they've got